Sugar Daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Dan, how you doing?
Good morning. We don't have Matt here today to celebrate the Pacers' win into the Eastern Conference, but
Listen, he went on a bit of a bender celebrating, and he
Bender.
yeah. And by bender, I mean he takes his kids to school on Wednesdays.
Yeah, he takes his kids to Bender. Yeah,
but no, listen, Pacers Nation is rising up. And to me, I mean, they deserve a shot. While Matt's not here, I'll just say this: I have more pity on the Pacers than any other team because they have had some really good players. Larry Bird, amazing coach for the Pacers, amazing GM for the Pacers.
That's right.
And they have been so unique in how they can take generational talent and just grind them into doing nothing year after year.
What a comment! What a comment!
Yeah.
They can take great talent and just destroy them.
Yeah. It's fine. So anyway, but
okay, I got real quick. You brought up Larry Bird,
please.
On the Legends tour, I remember going. Don't ask me why. We were going one vacation with the kids years ago, and we were driving through. I think we actually stayed. They had a hotel near French Lick, Indiana, where Larry's from, and so we had to go. For me, I needed to see the house the Larry was born in. So we go through. It's this little house.
French Lick.
Oh yeah, French Lick. There's not a whole lot there in French Lick, but we did the Larry Bird tour, saw the house, saw the court where Larry spent his time.
Do they have it as a museum or something?
No.
Oh, they should.
I know they should. A little house. I mean, and I know he had a challenging time growing up, but it was neat to see. It's a little place, but when you think of his story coming out of there, I still think of, he was a freshman at Indiana University with Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight he didn't see a lot his freshman year, and he let him go, and Larry Bird kind of comes back and does a little bit okay. If there's anything Bobby Knight would say as he's getting older, boy, did I screw up with the Larry Bird thing.
My gosh, yeah. I mean, listen, I think that you think about how many Larry Birds there are in the world that just never got a chance, because you think French Lick, Indiana, just a farmer's boy, just a go-getter who just so happens to be 6'9".
That's right.
Like the odds of that are pretty.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. Not only 6'9", but just had 6'9", and that could shoot, have a lot of confidence. He was just a tough kid. I mean, I think he had to go back to work after his freshman year.
Yeah.
He was back working, and then he made the best of his, and he had that, he was unathletic enough that even in the NBA, all these guys, even after years of getting burned by Larry Bird, still thought they could stop him because he was, he didn't look that like blazing quickness, but he could score, kind of like Luka, he could get a shot off anytime.
I think about Larry Bird, and you hear all these stories of him being so really competitive and saying some terrible things during the game. Yeah. But I had always seen him, and this is one of the things as a LeBron fan I don't like, is to see him and Magic always just say, "Oh, Michael's the best." Even when they're playing, they're like, "Oh, Michael's the best."
I know.
And what I did like a couple years ago, I thought I saw a thing that Larry Bird, Jordan had said something like, "Oh, Larry Bird would never, ever beat me ever again,
Wow.
one on one." And this is like 5-6 years ago. And Larry Bird was like, "Well, of course, like my back is broke, basically." Like, of course.
Yeah.
But then you saw a little bit in that, a little bit of the competitive part. And he said, "How long do I have to train?" And he says, "As much as your time." He said, 3 months, I could take Jordan.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah, he believes it. Yeah.
Well, and just again, as a LeBron fan, this whole Michael Jordan narrative stuff, you go back and listen to some of those early years of Jordan when Larry Bird was in his prime. Larry Bird was smoking Michael Jordan in his prime.
Absolutely. And there was another kid from Chicago that beat the Bulls and him pretty good, but he doesn't get enough press. Isaiah Thomas, the original. Thomas.
Oh yeah.
You look at some film, he would light them up.
Well, and this is the thing is like, again, this narrative now of like, well, the Pistons were so dirty. The Pistons just beat the crap out of Bulls over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
And he had to get Scottie Pippen to get over the hump.
Oh yeah. And
I know, Dan, I know all the narratives. I know all the
yeah.
I've had these battles for so long.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, we could talk about it all day.
Yeah.
And but how's the market doing? Let's look at the market real quick. The market is up 10, 11 points. Dan, yesterday was frustrating.
Very.
What were you seeing yesterday? What were you?
I was seeing frustration. So yesterday was Tuesday. I put on a reverse iron Condor on Monday for Tuesday. You're thinking, again, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with a reverse iron Condor, it's just a spec trade. You don't need to have the direction right. If it goes up, you're fine. You get some long deltas. If it goes down, you're fine. You get some short deltas. It's a positive gamma trade. So it's the best of both worlds that you don't need to pick the right direction. But the flip side of it is it's a big negative theta trade. So you need movement. And so I had one on coming into that was expiring tomorrow or yesterday, Tuesday, put it on Monday. And so just for that first 20 minutes, it looked like we're not doing anything today, right? Just up a little bit. You had the, what was it? This PPI or CPI? One of those was yesterday before CPI before the opening. So I'm looking at this and we get up in a reverse iron Condor. You have two wings, right? You just want it to get up to one of those wings. What was approaching one of those wings and, I was looking at it thinking, if we go back down, I call it the sea of death, the middle of that reverse iron. I said, might be down 30% before you could say potato chip. And so I sold out the call side thinking we're going to back off a little bit. And then the rest of the, then it just shot up. Right. And, you could have made another, whatever you could have. So I go from a small loser, could have been a 30% winner. And I think that's where then I was thinking, when's the mechanical trading coming? Because, even hard, I know on those reverse iron Condors, I don't, I've tried to put in there, we look at it and say, maybe, okay, don't even think about until maybe noon, the day of the expiration, if you want to get out or something like that, if you're doing something like that, just because if you're in that sea of death, you'll lose the whole debit, right, on that trade. But I just got a little nervous. And that's the thing with like mechanical trading can be a help to people is that, hey, stick with the plan. And I was so, and you just, some things you're not even aware of, Troy, like, okay, we've been up X amount of days. We've been up 10% in the market basically in 3 weeks. And, again, we're starting this 7 days up, 8 days up, and we're going to go down. But I was worried about more the strategy that, when you trade a strategy, the weak spot. And the weak spot, reverse iron Condors, and that sea of death in the middle. So that was the that run up, right? Should have been more patient, but that was that yesterday was kind of that run up, but then it didn't really do anything the rest of the day. And then it kind of backed off 18 points at the end. And that's why I was thinking to raise a question, how often do you see, and I wonder, again, I watched some videos last night of Moneyball. So I'm thinking Moneyball again. You cannot watch enough of, as much as you would watch like
everyday thing.
Oh yeah. Godfather videos, Moneyball stuff is just, I might like them better.
I'd watch, there's certain movies, I would watch Forrest Gump anytime it was on TV.
Oh yeah. Over and
anytime, over and over again. Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Similar situation for me.
See, I'm like Shawshank. Is it Shawshank?
Yep. Shawshank Redemption's a classic. That's Rusty's favorite.
Yeah. Is it?
I digress.
But the what was it trying to say? The point I don't know what I was, but have you done any data on, when you think at the end of the day, like a lot of times when it gaps up, like yesterday, right? Gaps up a little bit, but even though it wasn't, it gapped a bit, but then it sprinted up, right? And then it kind of paused. And then maybe the last 20 minutes it gave up, 20, 25 points. Sometimes it gives up a lot more. Have you guys done any data on that last half hour? What you call, I mean, you have the power hour, but have you had any that last half hour when on, what, a little more data on, okay, it backs off X amount or?
I haven't, but the way you could do it basically is you could test taking things off at 3, these condors, and you could test leaving them on. My theory on it is, as frustrating as this is, these end of day kind of move back down, there's probably that many or more end of day moves in the opposite direction away from the center.
Yeah.
And you'd probably lose a lot of edge with some of those strategies. That's always kind of the kicker of those things, is to say, man, it'd be nice to, like I personally, we're all users of OO. I would love to have in the app the ability that, like on an opening range breakout, one of the conditions for exiting is if we go back into range. But it's a hard thing to do, because here, once we do that, people are going to immediately ask for, and then if it goes back out of range, then do it, or wait till it goes back into range the first time, and then if it breaks out 2 times, then do it. And it's just, it introduces a world of hurt for everybody.
Or even like, I guess part of this testing, just focus on some of these strategies the last 30 minutes, right? And just see how they, whether it be a reverse iron condor, an iron condor, or whatever. And, but it is interesting because it's like yesterday, once it made, I think the first 25 minutes, it was only up 20, 25 points, or whatever, 20, I forget exactly. And then it sprinted to where it wanted to go. And then you could have taken a 3-4 hour nap,
parked the car.
Yeah. And then it comes back a little bit. So,
I had this similar frustration yesterday, different strategy, but similar frustration. I've been loving these call credit butterflies.
Oh yeah.
I'll slap them on. I knew, my theory is
those are the ones we talked about in the
backtesting
last week. Yeah.
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 And I'm doing them in XSP because I'm still testing them. And boy, was I glad I did it XSP yesterday. Because what I'll do is basically, I'm trying to slap them on throughout the day for different expirations. So anytime I can get a credit of a specific percentage or something, I'll slap it on. Well, the problem is you're kind of playing this, at least I'm discretionarily right now playing this, where my thesis is this tariff stuff is running out of gas.
Absolutely.
And we're going to, that doesn't mean we're going to fall back down, but I just don't think the rate of movement is going to, with we're at a 17 VIX. I mean, we should be a 20-point move, 30-point move a day, maybe. Yeah. And so I thought that what you kind of want is, and it's worked well so far, overall net positive strategy, but I've been playing it where I'm adjusting the amount of moves. So I'll go to the whole strike. So like, if we're at 57.90 and we've gone up, I'll see if I can sell the 5,900 or 590 in XSP for a credit. Get that, and I'll do like a 1-3-2 sometimes to get that credit.
And you're a little short delta starting out.
A little short delta start. Yeah, for sure. Definitely start short delta. Well, I was an idiot yesterday, and I put, when we opened up that 20, I thought we were out of gas. I thought we were going to sit at 20 all day.
I did too.
And so I put on some 590s for Friday, and then an hour later, like, you don't want 3 days when you've already hit that short strike.
No.
In that strategy. And so I took them off just because I didn't, it would have played out great this morning, but I'm not waiting around 3 days at a 590 strike to see what happens.
Well, and you bring up a great point, Troy. And what we're talking about, folks, is when you have these broken wing butterflies, and you're basically starting with the premise, okay, right now, or SPX closed at 58.86. So if you say, all right, I don't think we're going beyond 59.30 or whatever the assessment, and you're selling the 59.30, you're like maybe buying one before it, selling 2 or 3 and buying one above it, but you're leaning short delta. You're basically saying, I think it's going to be there or below. And if you do the expiration on, let's say, this coming Thursday or this coming Friday, if we go up right today to the short strike, you're not happy. You're saying,
you're in trouble.
Hey, it did try what you wanted it to do, but it did it too quick.
Exactly.
Right? It did it too quick. And so now you're sucking wind on that thing.
That's the name of the game with that strategy, is expirations really matter with that.
Oh yeah.
Because you could go out 40 days right now, and you could probably sell the 6150, the highs of the market.
Yeah.
And you could collect a credit. But the problem is, I have no confidence that we're not going to be at 6150 by next Friday.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And and when you look at Troy, I mean, to me, I like, when you have something like SPX, it's a cheap shot. I mean, excuse me. It's an expensive vehicle.
Yeah.
If you could do, like, I like balanced butterflies for a spec shot. And I'll give an example here. And I like balanced butterflies because you can do them in the SPX for $100, $150. You could participate a directional move, but in a balanced butterfly, it's the same thing as Troy just mentioned. If you hit that short strike a day or two before it's supposed to, it's like your mother-in-law coming over a month early for Christmas. And I love my mother-in-law.
That's a great analogy.
It's a
great analogy.
But like, Troy, you don't want to encourage me with saying it's a great analogy. It's like, no, they're not good. But if you look at, real quick, if you look at Friday, for example, Friday is 2 days. The expected move is about 75 points to this Friday. So someone may say, right, someone may get tired of this upside, say, you know what, I think we got to have a down day or whatever. So let's just say we closed at 58.86. I'm going to change the closing price last night just because I can do math better at 5,900. So let's just say we closed at 5,900. The expected move to Friday is 75 points. A lot of times I'll see people put on, okay, I'll go 75 points down from 5,900, place my short at 58.25, right? Go, 15 points up, buy a long put, 15 points below my short put, buy a put. And it might be $1.50. And if we go down, those type of spec trades have, I call them balanced butterflies or time bomb butterflies. They're going to have your highest yield potential. But the problem is you're not starting out many short deltas. So if we go down too quick, you're like, where's my money? Like the commercial, I don't know if you're old enough. Do you remember the Wendy's commercial?
Where's the beef?
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Was that Mikey, little Mikey? Where's the beef?
Yeah. That was, yeah. I think it's those two old ladies.
Yeah. What? That's right. They were great. They were,
yeah.
But I think the balanced butterflies are a wonderful way for people like myself who stink at picking direction that can stick it in there at the expected move. And they're great yield. They're great trades. They're very forgiving. You won't go out of business with those usually. But the timing, and that's the thing that made me, like what Troy's talking about, the credit butterfly broken wing. you just have to understand that, you're not going to get your money into. That's why I think they're good, Troy. Like a lot of times we'll look at balanced butterflies in earnings season when you have an earnings coming later in the week. Like, for example, this week, I believe Thursday before the opening is Walmart, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you get something close to that Friday expiration,
yeah,
you can put a balanced butterfly with the short near the expected move, and those work well. Anyway, yeah, I didn't want to go off on a tangent.
No, I like it. I like it.
Well,
speaking of staying in business,
yeah.
we continue our discussion this morning, but we're going to take a little off ramp. Still talk about the strategy we looked at yesterday, but we're going to make some changes. So let me do this real quick. Can you see this, Dan?
Oh yeah.
All right. So this is the trade that we did yesterday. The backtest we looked at yesterday. And if you remember, here's the premise. We're trying to start with small accounts of $5,000 for people who are completely new to trading, something that they can automate. Automation comes out soon, and they can be at their job and they can feel confident that, they're not going broke, and maybe they're getting into trading in a smart way. And so this is a long gamma trade, which immediately people, most brand new option traders are not going to get into stuff like this because they learn that buying premium, you lose money, and selling premium, you make money. Anybody who's traded for 15 seconds knows it's a little more complicated than that. But this trade did really well. And we looked at it yesterday. It's a good trade in the sense that time where you take the trade off at 359, you can actually move that around and it still works well. And that to me is a sign that it's a good trade. But I made mention yesterday that one of the things with this is I was looking at that 5% allocation per trade. And remember, we're putting this on 2 times a day. So, 9:35 and 12:30, shout out Steven in the chat. So one of the things that I wanted to test is me and Dan had lunch yesterday. Dan and I have a breakfast spot we go to, and Dan is the most consistent man I've ever seen in my life. Dan orders the same thing every time. I like to mix it up a little bit, but we were sitting there talking, and I told him, I actually think that's too high an allocation. And you might think to yourself, guys, look, God, what do you want? What do you want from us? Like $5,000, what? I think most people go into this assuming, well, 5,000 is like a play account. So if you burn through it, you burn through it. Who cares? Well, if the whole premise is if you're a new trader and you have $5,000, you saved up $5,000, you're newly married, you're having to convince your wife, or you're having to convince your husband if you're the wife, hey, I think I've got this plan. $5,000 is real money. It's no joke. And so risk management, we're going to just talk about risk management on a trade like today. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a different version. So real quick, pay attention to this. You have turned 5,000 into 50,000 in this trade. That's awesome, right? That's a tremendous trade. But a couple things. You had a 31% drawdown. And because you had a 31% drawdown, your MAR is 3.9. What happens if we started even smaller? And by that, what happens if we did this? Can you see this difference here, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll notice this one thing, one contract per trade. What happens if we took this down to an atomic level, just as small as you can get? And we said, we're only going to do one contract per time of opening this. So if we're opening this twice a day, we're doing 2 contracts a day. Well, notice straight away, people's eyes are trained to look at certain things. You're going to look at the P&L and be like, well, why in the world would I do that? Why would I do that? Well, here's why you would do that. Your MAR is actually very similar by keeping it even smaller. Why? because your drawdown has been reduced so much. Your account size is not being swinging as much. And I wanted to take time today before we go on to think about this, because if we're constructing a portfolio of small trades for small traders, not height wise, you could be over 6'2", 6 foot and still trade this, but for people who have small account sizes who are just getting started, or for people who have been burned maybe in the last month and are like, I've got to go. I had $25,000 in my account. Now I've got $5,000 in my account. What do I do? And one of the things that no one wants to hear, but it's the truth of it, is everyone is probably trading too large.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is trading too large. And Dan, I know you've been doing this for a long time, and you have talked to probably thousands of people through the years about this.
Yeah.
So Dan, what are your thoughts about sizing? Like, how should people think about it?
Oh, it's you bring up a topic that that's the most important thing. I mean, that is the door of taking someone from a beginner. If you taking someone from a beginner and they get through that door, and you call them intermediate or advanced, everywhere on that door is the word sizing. It depends on it, right? Absolutely. If there's anything, when I get a new student and you're working with someone or you're just advising a new student, everything is around size, because they're getting different information in the world of financial education. And most of it is, when it's 10:30 at night and you're sitting on your bed, you're having a pizza and you're seeing, show a picture of this guy in a Ferrari at the beach. So you could be like me, sell these puts or do whatever, right? And I've looked at those commercials many a time, and I'm ready to pick up the phone. I'm like, this is way too.
Sign me up.
This is, I want, but then I know that's not true, but I want to believe it. I mean, I really want to believe it. But when it comes to size, for me, being a teacher, mentor, whatever, the biggest thing is my goal is can I get this guy to 6 months? And to get a guy to 6 months, it's protect him from his biggest enemy in his life, himself, right? And the only way to do that, the only thing you have is size, right? To keep them, which is tough because they want to wing it, keep them small. So I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, I'm new to this, but I'm feeling I got a bit of an aptitude. I think I'm feeling it. I said, where did you get this feeling from? Well, a couple of weeks ago, he bought NVIDIA and a couple other things with some of his retirement money, and they suddenly went up 10, 15%. And he's like, I got that feeling. Isn't there a song? I got that feeling. Is that a group? I don't know. Feeling or whatever.
Black Eyed Peas.
Maybe Black Eyed Peas. So, but the key is you keep them. And I tell students, I said, listen, you shouldn't be trading more than $2,000 or $3,000. You can put on butterfly calendar. You could put on a reverse iron condor. But I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a crazy thought. Prove you can make money on $3,000 before you go to 30 or 40. So if you can, because it takes a good 6-7 months, I think, to build a foundation, to understand this stuff. Doesn't mean you can't. I want you, you should be trading small, but people, I think, and you hit it, Troy, people trade big, too quick. And the other thing is, when I was in the pits, you would do similar trades over and over and over. And me, I wasn't ever really good with school or the smartest crayon in the box. But, if I did something 32 times, right, I could get a little better at it. And I think what I find people doing is they don't stick with something. And that's why I think what Troy hit with the mechanical trading is so key is he put in one contract on the test for today, because if you're putting in too big a size or too big of an allocation, I'm going to tell you right now, you will not continue. As Jack Nicholson said in that movie, or was it Tom Cruise, you can't handle the truth. And when you have a 30 to 40% drawdown, you could say, I'll come back the next day. You probably won't, right? And so I think keep the size small that you can get through 10 RICs in 10 different weeks, or 10 calendars, or 10 credit spreads, or whatever. That money isn't going to stop you, right? Because I find too many traders and then once you dig a hole, then it's like, maybe I'll try coin collecting. I'll try something else. And right. Really, all it is building a foundation. This is a craft. If you come into this as a craft, right? Even though, so that's size is absolutely everything. If you can get somebody who enjoys this stuff and sticks with it for 6 months, keeps the size under control, right? Because if you, let's just take, if I could just for one last rant here, and double calendars. Let's say somebody started out, they don't really understand them, they back test them, they do them, and they're making money, right? And then they say, you know what, at the dinner table, honey, we're going pretty good. Let's jack the size up. I got it. It's good. And they don't understand it, right? You could run into trouble. So I'm really, if you're looking to think about this, one last perspective. If you're thinking of doing this, right? This isn't like playing basketball where once you get to 50 or 60 or even 40, your knees can be a problem. You can do this till you're 70 or 80 years old, and have fun with it. And so if you want to get there, spend that 6 months, really learn the business, do the back testing, understand it, be patient, right? And just, you can be in the Options Omega community and see other people trading 20, 30 contracts. They probably didn't come out of the gate doing that. So I think,
who cares? Yeah,
who cares? And it's just learn, enjoy it. If you trade small, a lot higher probability. I mean, anybody I've seen in our community or anybody in the retail options arena that has been around for 20 years and doing real well, they're beginning very humble beginnings, right? One contract, two, making a lot of mistakes, but it's okay to make mistakes in Three Stooges on $2 or $3 grand of capital. It's not okay to do Three Stooges on 50, 100,000 of capital, because then it's going to hurt more, right? So anyways, I didn't mean to give the Vince Lombardi speech, but I think it's size is important. And here's the one last thing. When you're doing size, okay, let's say somebody says, I'm doing well. I've been through some adversity. I'm increasing my trading capital that I'm going to employ, right? From $3 grand to $6 grand, or $3 grand to $7 grand. Stay at that level for at least 3 months so you can go through adversity, see how you did before you move up. So I think it's just very delicate the first 6 months with size. Then once you build a foundation, I think building size is much easier. So anyways.
100%. And that's great advice. I think the chat's blowing up, so I'm going to work backwards. Jamal, can you test based on orb? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Go back and look at some previous videos, the live videos. We've done that. And just look at our YouTube channel. We have tons of orb stuff you can look at. Joseph, haven't performed well in May. There's probably another filter to where you'd want to look at VIX, honestly. VIX based things like that. You can do whatever you want, Jamal, for orb. You can do 5 minutes if you wanted to. You could do 4 hours. You can do upside breakout, downside breakout, both breakouts. Steven, RSI, it is worth playing around with. I took it off here because it doesn't help this trade, but it is there are certain trades that RSI does really well with. So RSI is a good, and I've seen a lot of people who basically say a high RSI is kind of a great smooth filter, smoothed out filter. Tom, you did not hear Troy say 100% highs. Shout out Tom. He's one of my favorites. Someone, and Mr. Flawless, this is a great, or actually Mr. Jones, I'm going to do Mr. Flawless last. Jones, isn't there a planned capital for each trade? That's how you control your size. Yes, and in the back tester, you can do it a couple different ways. So you can say, help if I know my own tool. So you can do margin allocation per trade. So you could do sizing. You could have a max amount of open trades at a time. So if you're doing longer dated stuff, you don't want to have 90-day spreads on. You can limit it. You can do a max contract per trade, or you can do max allocation per trade. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. Now, Mr. Flawless has a great point, and we'll end on this. Mr. Flawless says, if you don't post your Lambo on TikTok, I don't want your advice. Which is a great it's a great
that is a great one. That is a great one.
But here's the thing. We've all seen those guys. So here's my secret, guys. We're in the community. I'm just gonna tell you the secret. We're launching automation very soon. And what I've realized is I want to take all these small account that are trades that we're doing right now over the next couple of weeks. And I want to create the YouTube and TikTok screenshots with a Lambo. I probably will rent a Lambo for this, me and Dan riding in it. I'm going to have all the, what I realize you have to do is you have to use all the same marketing that all these other jokesters do. But then when they jump in your community, you actually show good trading advice that will help them stay solvent for a long time. But you just trick them with the marketing. And people say, well, that's unethical. Well, brother, I don't know if you've ever looked at any of these services.
Yeah.
But I can promise you their trades aren't getting you Lambo. I can promise you that.
Yes. And Troy, the only thing, can I make a recommendation?
Please.
Instead of the Lambo, could you have us on? I just have a different idea. I saw this in a video. Some horses. Troy and
horses.
Me and you driving on horse. Instead of the Lambo, you can be in the horse. But one quick thing on planned capital, if it's okay. One, planned capital. That's a wonderful phrase. And the other thing is this, Troy. Wouldn't you say, if I said planned capital, do you have the same planned capital on every trade? In other words, would you have
absolutely not?
Right. And that's where I think people gotta, like, let's say you're doing a calendar or something you're comfortable with. You do it every week, every day. Your planned capital might be $4,000 for a trade or $3,000. But if you're doing a 0-day shot, right, or a 0-day spec trade or something maybe, a little more risky or whatever, your planned capital might go to $500, right? So if you lose, right, if you said to me, take a shot in video, go down today. Okay, are you going to do that with your same? You do smaller. So I think that's another area where recognize, like in an earnings play. Earnings play, you should do a lot smaller than your bread and butter, right? Because an earnings play is, who the heck knows, right? A company comes in with much better than expected earnings and it's up 30%. Well, aren't you glad if you're wrong that you only had $400 on this thing instead of $5,000? So I think that's another thing for new people to realize. Planned capital, riskier trades, less capital will keep you. So everything I've basically said is how to keep a guy going for 6 months or a year so he can get better at this and survive, right? Period.
That's right. Now again, will we start advertising with us in Rolls-Royces to explain how you can do that? Sure. I think we should.
Absolutely.
Obviously. Absolutely. So a couple things. Private jets, we'll probably rent a private jet like these influencers do for an hour. So we can take our pictures and do our videos in them. Rent the Lambo for an hour. So I can get my hands on a Rolls-Royce, do that. And then obviously a lot more bikini pics from me. Dan, I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you to do it, but a lot more bikini pics from me. So
but could we go the opposite, Troy, and say, look at
Acura.
Here's Dan and his, or here's Dan. I mean, we've got a couple Honda Pilots. This is Dan in the Honda Pilot. Here's
a couple
Honda Pilots.
That's the sell off. Like, I've got a couple Honda Pilots.
I've got a couple Honda Pilots. If you want to be like me,
that's right. That's right. Listen, some people are trying to get out of their Honda Acurates. I want to point you with my 2009 F-150. And people say, 2009 F-150, what kind of trades are you doing? Hey, brother, that's a King Ranch. I'm talking King Ranch F-150.
Hey, I've been in that. I like it.
Oh
I've
yeah,
been in it.
yeah.
I've been in it.
Unfortunately, Dan's been in it, and people say, "Well, you don't smoke in that beautiful truck, do you?" Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right, guys. Listen, have a great day trading. Be safe out there. To the point, stay small. If you can, stay small, and trade well. So we'll plan on talking tomorrow. We'll improve on our strategy as much as we can tomorrow, and we'll keep going. So have a good day.